Let me ask you something that most people avoid asking themselves. What's the one thing about yourself that you hope no one else ever notices? Maybe it's the way your voice shakes when you speak in public. Maybe it's the fact that you grew up poor and still carry the shame. Maybe it's the constant fear that you're not good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. We all have them, insecurities, and we're trained to hide them, taught to patch them up, cover them, silence them. But what if I told you that what you're hiding is the very thing that can elevate you? What if your deepest fear about yourself is your greatest untapped advantage? See, we live in a world obsessed with perfection. Social media sells us the illusion of flawless success, of confidence without doubt, of beauty without blemish. But behind every success story, behind every powerful figure, is a battlefield of insecurities, shame, and wound. And those who win, those who rise, are not the ones who are perfect. They're the ones who learn to use what others run from. That's what shadow mastery is. It's not just about being okay with your flaws. It's about weaponizing them. It's about taking the thing that makes you feel small and turning it into the thing that makes you unstoppable. Take Oprah Winfrey. She was abused, rejected, and dismissed early in life. She could have let that define her. But instead, she used it. Her vulnerability became her strength. She connected with millions because she understood pain. Her insecurity made her irreplaceable. Or consider Tom Hardy. His childhood was filled with chaos, addiction, and a sense of being too much for the world. Instead of burying it, he infused his roles with that raw intensity. What people once said made him dangerous, made him magnetic. These aren't exceptions. They are examples. The question is, what if your biggest insecurity was actually a coded message from your potential? What if it's the part of you that hasn't been trained? Because here's the truth. Your insecurities are just underdeveloped superpowers. And the reason they hurt so much is because they matter. They point directly to where your power lies. So, if you've been hiding, shrinking, apologizing for the parts of you that feel weak, this is your moment. Not to cover them, but to confront them. Not to numb them, but to train them, to forge them into tools, weapons, assets. This series is not about false positivity or motivational fluff. This is shadow mastery. This is about turning the part of you that whispers, "You're not good enough," into the voice that roars, "I'm coming anyway." Let's begin. Before you can turn your insecurities into strength, you have to first know them. And I don't mean surface-level labels like "I'm shy" or "I lack confidence." I'm talking about the real beast, the hidden voice, the specific story you've been telling yourself in the dark. Here's the thing. Most people don't even know what their insecurity truly is. They just feel the symptom, avoiding challenges, procrastinating opportunities, comparing themselves endlessly to others. But underneath all that behavior is a belief, a lie that got embedded deep inside. So your first move, you need to name your beast. Ask yourself, what situations trigger a strong emotional reaction in me? When do I feel like I'm not enough? And what am I most afraid people will discover about me? Sometimes it takes more than a few minutes of quiet thinking. Sometimes it takes journaling or walking alone at night. But make no mistake, until you name the exact wound, you're just putting band-aids on your life. Let me give you a real example. Jason was a talented entrepreneur, smart, creative, but he kept sabotaging his own progress. Every time a deal was about to close, he'd back out or overthink and stall. On the surface, he said he had commitment issues. But after we worked together, he realized something deeper. He was terrified of success. Because growing up, every time he did well, his father mocked him for showing off. His insecurity wasn't laziness or fear. It was a belief that success would cost him love. Once he named it, everything changed. He stopped running. He started rewriting that internal script, and success no longer felt like betrayal. It felt like liberation. That's the first strategy of shadow mastery. Radical identification. You cannot fight what you refuse to see. You cannot master what you won't name. Your insecurity has a voice, and it whispers. You're too weak, too late. Not meant for this. But when you pull it into the light and say, "There you are, I see you," you take back control. Here's a quick exercise for you. Think about the last time you backed down from something. Maybe it was speaking up in a meeting. Maybe it was asking for a raise. Maybe it was starting that project you dreamed of for years. Now ask yourself, why didn't you follow through? Not the excuse, the real reason. Write it down, stare at it, and then say this out loud. This is my fear. This is my beast, and I will train it, because naming it isn't weakness, it's ownership. And the moment you own your insecurity, it stops owning you. In this process, you'll feel resistance. That's normal. Your ego will scream, "Don't go there." But growth only happens on the other side of discomfort. And the more precise you are about your insecurity, the more powerful your strategy becomes for turning it into your asset. You can't turn pain into power unless you first admit that it's pain. You can't build strength from shame unless you first feel the shame. This isn't self-help fluff. This is surgical, strategic. This is real mastery. Because once you name the beast, you can start training it to work for you. Now that you've named your beast, it's time to do something that almost no one dares to do. Feel it fully, and then use it. See, we're trained to run from pain, to numb it, to distract ourselves, to drown it in noise, entertainment, alcohol, scrolling endlessly through a phone. But pain, when used with precision, is rocket fuel. It's pure energy. And when you redirect that energy into movement, growth, obsession, that's when the transformation begins. There's a moment in every powerful life when pain is no longer something you escape, but something you harness. That's exactly what shadow mastery is. Not avoiding pain, not pretending you're okay, but taking the sharp edge of your wound and using it to cut through excuses. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who stuttered so badly that even ordering coffee was a nightmare. He was mocked, ignored, passed over. He hated his voice. He hated himself. But one day, after yet another humiliating public moment, he broke down in his room. And instead of numbing the pain, he recorded himself over and over. He read poetry out loud. He sang. He practiced speaking with pebbles in his mouth, just like Demosthenes. He turned the thing that made him feel worthless into his greatest obsession. He became a spoken word artist, a coach, a speaker, not in spite of his pain, but because of it. Here's the second strategy of shadow mastery: emotional alchemy. The feelings you try to bury are raw power. Fear, shame, rage, loneliness. These are not signs of weakness. They are fuel sources, but only if you process them through movement. You feel rage, train harder. You feel shame, create more. You feel afraid, take action anyway, especially where it scares you most. The key is, you don't wait to feel better. You move through the feeling. You use the discomfort to push forward. Because every time you take a step through the pain, not around it, not over it, through it, you rewire your brain. You prove to yourself that you are not the victim of your story. You are the editor of it. Pain becomes your compass. And that's what separates people who succeed in the real world, especially in cutthroat environments, from those who stay stuck in fear. They don't try to feel ready. They act while still bleeding. They show up with the wound still open, but eyes locked on the goal. Think about every great athlete, artist, entrepreneur you admire. Do you think they arrived where they are because life was kind? No, they built empires from bruises. They built power from pain, and now it's your turn. If you've been carrying something heavy, an insecurity, a memory, a regret, don't let it rot inside you. Don't wait for it to fade. Channel it, build from it. Take that rejection and sculpt a better version of yourself. Take that embarrassment and craft your craft with obsession. Take that heartbreak and use it to fuel your discipline, your vision, your rage for greatness. Because the pain you're hiding is the gold vein no one else sees. Most people run from it. You mine it. Let this be the moment you stop saying, "I wish it didn't happen to me," and start saying, "Because it happened, I will rise differently." That's not inspiration. That's transformation. You've named your beast. You've felt it. You've started to channel it. But now comes the hardest and most important step: reprogramming your belief system through repetition and behavior. Because let's be honest, you don't think your way into a new identity. You act your way into one. Your insecurity created a pattern, a script, a reflex. Every time you avoided conflict, stayed silent, or played small, you reinforced that old code: I am not enough. And your brain, it obeys what you repeat, not what you wish. So how do we change it? Here's the third strategy of shadow mastery: identity rewiring through micro wins. Stop thinking about massive change. Start thinking about micro victories, tiny, uncomfortable, intentional actions that contradict the old story you've been telling yourself. Let me explain. If your insecurity says, "I'm not confident," your action must be, "Speak up in one meeting." If your insecurity says, "I'm not worthy of success," your action must be, "Reach out to one person you admire." If your insecurity says, "I'm not lovable," your action must be, show up to one social event without overanalyzing. This is not fake it till you make it. This is train it until it's true. Because every time you act against the old belief, you weaken the neural pathway that keeps you in chains, and you build a new one. Neuroscience backs this up. Your brain is plastic. It rewires itself based on what you do repeatedly, not what you know, not what you read, but what you act on, especially when it's uncomfortable. Think of it like this: every time you override your insecurity with action, you cast a vote for your new identity. One action, one vote. One rep of courage, one drop of truth. And over time, those votes accumulate. You don't wake up one day confident. You earn it in the trenches. You don't magically become powerful. You forge it through daily reps of facing fear. Here's a story to anchor this. Samantha was terrified of being seen. Years of bullying in school had convinced her that if she stood out, she'd be torn down. She avoided leadership roles, attention, even compliments. But instead of reading self-help books endlessly, she tried something else. She made a rule: one rep per day, one moment of visibility, one post online, one voice in a group discussion. She tracked it, felt the fear, did it anyway, and slowly her brain caught up. 2 years later, she leads a team of 40, not because the fear disappeared, but because her behavior rewrote the story. You want to change the way you see yourself? Don't wait for the feelings. Let your actions build your new belief. You are what you do consistently, not what you promise yourself in silence. So, here's the tool. Create a daily rep ritual. Write down your core insecurity. Then create one micro action that contradicts it. Do it daily, track it, own it. And when you fail, good, fail again. Because every failure is a rep, and every rep rewires the system. This is no longer about fixing yourself. It's about forging yourself, deliberately, practically, repeatedly. Your insecurity is not your identity. It's just your starting point. No transformation lasts in isolation. You can name your beast. You can harness your pain. You can take daily reps of action. But if your environment, the people, places, habits around you keeps reinforcing the old you, your growth will always be under threat. Shadow mastery isn't just about inner work. It's also about external architecture. You need to build the arena that supports who you are becoming, not who you've been. Let me explain why this matters. Your environment is either an amplifier or a silencer. You might take bold steps daily, but if you're surrounded by people who ridicule your efforts, who feed your insecurity, who keep you in the box they're comfortable with, you'll start to shrink again. Not because you're weak, but because the human brain is wired to adapt to its surroundings. You rise to the level of your environment. And if that environment constantly pulls you back into fear, shame, or self-doubt, then even your strongest inner work becomes a daily war. So, what you do, you engineer your surroundings deliberately, relentlessly. Here's the fourth strategy of shadow mastery: environmental design for identity reinforcement. Start with people. Make a list of who feeds your fire and who quietly drains it. You don't need to cut people off harshly, but you do need boundaries. If someone constantly reminds you of your old limitations, create space, protect your process, and find the few, even one, who see who you're becoming. People who challenge you, support your new narrative, hold you accountable, not to your past, but to your potential. Next, design your physical and digital space. Yes, your space matters. If your room, your phone, your habits scream avoidance, you're setting traps for your future self. Set visual reminders of who you are becoming. Quotes, symbols, goals. Remove distractions that numb you. Replace them with tools that ignite you. And don't underestimate the power of rituals, morning routines, night reflections, daily movement. These aren't self-help fluff. They are anchors for the new identity you're wiring. Here's a story. Marcus was a writer, brilliant, but paralyzed by self-doubt. He did all the inner work, named his fear of rejection, took micro-actions, but he kept falling back into silence. Why? His environment was a trap. His room was cluttered chaos. His friends mocked dreamers. His feed was filled with envy and noise. So, we rebuilt his arena. He created a sacred space, a minimalist corner with nothing but a chair, a journal, and a candle. He stopped hanging out with the sarcasm squad. He curated his digital space, replacing trash content with mentors, inspiration, purpose, and within 6 months, he published his first book. Not because his fear vanished, but because his environment stopped feeding it. You can do the same. Audit your arena. Where do you go that makes you shrink? Who do you talk to that keeps you small? What habits keep replaying your old story? Now reverse engineer. Design friction for your weakness. Design flow for your strength. Set up systems that support the person you're training to become, not the one you've been trying to escape. Shadow mastery is war, and no warrior walks into battle without preparing the field. Your beast lives inside you, but it breathes in your environment. So, build a world that feeds your fire, not your fear. You've come far. You've faced the beast. You've trained it. You've built an environment that supports your transformation. But there's a trap waiting for those who learn to tap into their dark energy. Burnout, bitterness, and the subtle creep of self-destruction disguised as progress. Because let's be clear, dark energy is powerful, but if you don't learn to manage it, it will consume you. That's why Shadow Mastery isn't about feeding your pain endlessly. It's about channeling it intentionally, without letting it rot you from the inside. Let me be blunt. Some people become addicted to their suffering. They wear their pain like armor, but it turns into a cage. They grind endlessly, fueled by revenge or rage, until they burn out or sabotage everything they built. You don't want that. You want sustainable fire, not a wildfire. So, how do you keep your edge without losing your soul? Here's the 5th strategy of Shadow Mastery: fuel management and emotional recovery. Think of your dark energy, anger, insecurity, fear as fuel. You don't throw it all into the fire at once. You learn to dose it, to direct it, to rest, to reset, to recover without guilt. Let's take an example: Kobe Bryant. He channeled anger like no one else. He trained at 4 a.m., obsessed over his flaws, studied his opponents relentlessly. But he also rested. He studied art, spent time with his family, reflected. Why? Because even a killer needs rhythm. Push, rest, attack, recover. A sustainable mastery is about cycling your energy. Here's how to do it. Know your emotional cycles. Are you someone who sprints and crashes? Or do you burn slowly? Identify your natural rhythm so you can work with it, not against it. Build recovery into your routine. Take rest seriously. Shadow Mastery isn't 24/7 rage. It's knowing when to step back and breathe. So, the next attack is sharper. 3. Create rituals that calm the storm. Meditation, walking, music, journaling. These aren't soft practices. They're weapons for balance. 4. Refuel with purpose, not distraction. Don't numb your pain with junk dopamine. Choose recovery that recharges your vision, not erases your fight. Let me tell you about Darren. He built a multi-million-dollar startup fueled by rejection and rage. He was unstoppable until he wasn't. One night, alone in his apartment, he collapsed. Not from weakness, from exhaustion. He hadn't rested in years. He had no rituals, no support, no pause, only pressure. We rebuilt everything. He kept the edge, but added rhythm. He trained hard, but meditated harder. He led his team with intensity, but also listened. And now he's building sustainably with fire that lasts. That's the shift. Shadow Mastery is not chaos. It's controlled burn. It's focused fury. It's knowing when to strike and when to sharpen the blade. So, if you've been grinding non-stop, fueled only by fear, revenge, shame, stop and ask yourself, is this fire driving me forward or eating me alive? Mastery means you don't just know how to fight. You know when to rest. You know when to listen. You know when to walk away, not as surrender, but as strategy. Let the world confuse your stillness with weakness. You'll return stronger, sharper, more precise. You are not a machine. You are a weapon. And even the most lethal weapon must be maintained. You've done what few people ever. You faced your darkness. You trained it. You built an environment. You learned to manage your fire. But now, we step into the final shift. The moment when your insecurity is no longer something you carry, but something you embody, own, live through. This is the true alchemy of Shadow Mastery. When what once made you feel less than becomes the source of your uniqueness, not hidden, not apologized for, but fused into the core of your identity. Let me explain this clearly. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to forge yourself into someone the world has never seen before. And the irony is, the very thing that once made you feel broken is what will make you irreplaceable. Because here's a truth few accept. Insecurity, once mastered, creates depth, and depth is rare. It's magnetic. It's the difference between surface-level impact and soul-level resonance. Look at any icon, any legend, any leader who stands out across time. They're not known for perfection. They're known for integration. They didn't hide their scars. They used them. Their uniqueness was forged in shadow and shined through presence. Think of Maya Angelou. She was mute for 5 years after trauma, but she didn't just regain her voice. She made it unforgettable. Her silence became poetry. Her insecurity became legacy. Or Elon Musk, socially awkward, obsessive, misunderstood. But those flaws, they are his edge. He didn't eliminate them. He integrated them into his identity, his business, his impact. That's the game now. You stop hiding. You highlight the very thing that once made you feel ashamed. Here's the 6th strategy of shadow mastery: identity integration. Take your insecurity, the one you've been working with since part 1, and ask yourself, how can I turn this into part of my power brand? If you were once scared to speak, your voice becomes your movement. If you were once rejected, you become the voice for the outsiders. If you were once weak, you train others to become strong. You don't mask your insecurity. You weaponize it by making it part of what makes you memorable. In the business world, this is the foundation of personal branding. In life, it's the foundation of authentic influence. People follow depth. People connect with transparency. People respect those who walk with scars and speak with fire. Your job now is to build a narrative around your shadow. To tell the story not as a victim, but as a master. To own your journey loudly, publicly, unapologetically. Because here's the ultimate truth. You're not competing with perfect people. You're competing with forgettable ones. And nothing is more forgettable than someone trying to be what they are not. But you've done the work. You've walked the dark road. You've earned a voice with weight, a presence with power, a story that sticks. Let the world chase trends. You'll build truth. Let the world chase perfection. You'll embody presence. Because now your insecurity is not your weakness. It's your signature, and no one else can copy that. You've walked through the fire. You've stared into the mirror of your deepest flaws. You've learned to transform your pain into power. You've rewritten the story you once feared to read, and now you stand at the edge of a new identity. One that doesn't apologize for the past. One that doesn't hide behind perfection. One that uses every scar as a sword. But let me be clear, this isn't the end. This is the beginning of your real life. The one that's not run by fear, not defined by silence, not caged by shame. This is where you step into the arena, not as a spectator of life, but as a competitor, a creator, a warrior forged in shadow. And I want you to hear this. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need validation to own your story. The world will never tell you you're ready. The world wants comfort. You want conquest. So go take it. Step forward, even if your hands shake. Speak even if your voice cracks. Act even if your knees buckle. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement through it. Shadow mastery is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about walking into rooms, not with arrogance, but with the silent thunder of someone who's died and come back reborn. Someone who doesn't just look powerful, but is powerful because they've earned every inch of it. Here's what you must remember. Your insecurity was never the enemy. It was your invitation, an invitation to explore the parts of you no one else dared to touch. An invitation to rise with rawness, not with masks. And now, the choice is yours. Will you go back to hiding, back to smallness, back to letting fear write your future? Or will you step into this world, scarred, sharpened, sovereign, and own every inch of who you are? Because there are people waiting for your voice, your story, your presence. They're not inspired by perfection. They're inspired by someone who's real. Someone who's been to hell and brought back light. That's you now. And if you ever doubt yourself again, which you will, remember this. You are not your fear. You are not your flaw. You are not your past. You are the weapon born from them. The fire, the future. So take that next step. Not some today. Let them wonder where your power comes from. Let them guess how you became unstoppable. Let them try to understand your silence, your calm, your intensity. They won't get it because they didn't walk through your darkness. But you did, and now you own it. This is Shadow Mastery, and this is your arena now. Burn the script, build the throne, and sit on it like you were always meant to.